All right, hi everyone. This is Maggie McKenna from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. I'm here with you today for our 16th episode of Art for Art's Sake. Today we'll be showcasing Andrew Norrell. He's in his studio in Hannawa Falls, New York. He's a potter and mixed media artist, and he creates all sorts of really cool functional art objects, mugs and things like that. He often sells it at farmers markets, so you can hopefully maybe you can see him there at some point this summer. I want to thank Andrew and everybody else who has been part of this program. It's been a really wonderful way to stay connected to the arts and to stay connected to our community out there in the great beyond of the internet. This program today is sponsored by St. Lawrence Federal Credit Union. Thank you so much to the team over there for helping to continue these arts kinds of programs. We really appreciate your support. This program, Art for Art's Sake, is a new virtual program from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council, where we're showcasing artists from all sorts of different media, showcasing the talents that exist in our community. So if you are an artist and you would like to participate in this, we are booking out a few weeks. Thankfully, we've gotten lots of really awesome people to sign up to show their work to the community. But if you would like to show your work or talk about your arts organization or some programs that you work on a regular basis, reach out to me directly, director@slcartscouncil.org. That's my email address. Or you can just message us into SLC Arts Council on Facebook and I will contact you there. Also, we really would appreciate your support with this program and everything else that we do. Our programming is very much on hold, so this is our programming. We often have our regular income to continue the resources that we provide artists through our programming, but that's not really happening. So if you can, go to slcartscouncil.org/give today and give what you can, and we really appreciate your support. Again, this is Andrew Norrell with Art for Art's Sake. I'm going to pass the torch over, unmute him so that he can talk. There you go. And Andrew, how's it going?
Good.
Take it away.
Kind of crazy over here. So thanks everybody for showing up. I'm not sure how many people are on just yet, but so like I said, we're going to be starting something, from scratch today, from the concept, actually figuring out, what the goal is and working from there to make something come to life that's expressive, that has a uniqueness that's valuable to not just me, but to the person who's going to wind up using it, or the people who wind up using it, seeing it, experiencing it. And there's a lot of balance, a lot of things that we need to think about that between the function and the other expressive aspects that we want to bring into there. So what I was thinking to do for today was a planter, or actually a set of planters. We're going to make an idea for the planters and then go from there as kind of a guideline of what we're doing. So previously, in the last few years, you might have bought some of them. The planters that I would make were like this. Okay, there you go. There's a shallow hole here for the drainage. Okay, you can see it's wider at the top on the bottom, so the plants can come out, but they're straight edge. Now that was so that we could draw and paint on them with underglazes, and there was a whole thing there to add to this. But for these, we really want to focus on the form in the clay. So like this mug, it's not just straight up and down. We've got the swirls that come through, and the chattering and the trimming below, the handles in proportion. A lot of this, it's not something that you would find, at Walmart, where everything is stacked nice and neat, and they've all got to be the same shapes and sizes and fit together nicely. That's not what I'm worried about today. So I'm not going to be caring if anything's symmetrical or centered. The tops might look more like this when we're all done. because I want to drift away from the functional and the mass produced to something that is unique. And I'll make shapes and marks that are going to work and play against each other in proportion and rhythms and patterns. So to go from that, we'll start with a lighter color and draw on top. So this is our old idea. But now we're going to bring some asymmetry into that. And those swirls that I make are a wonderful way to do that. You see, we're cutting in low down here and high up here. So we're still balanced, but we're asymmetrical. So we'll have be incorporating the swirls into these pieces. Okay, and for that to be balanced with the bottom should also have more of a fluid asymmetry to it. Okay, the rims on all of these things, they don't need to be straight because nobody's drinking out of them. So there's another place that I can add some interest. I'm going to cut the rims on these so that they're flowing and they have movement to them. I might even cut bits out. Okay, so if we get, maybe a sharp edge here where it's cut down. And clay is really plastic. And when you push and pull on it, like this, you can see I make an indent, but it's not just the impression by thumb. There's all this bending that goes around. This form has pushed in on this side. And over here, it's this whole dome, the whole form comes up. So we can add some indents through to balance it. Okay, so we've got this big open space. This is a good spot. We'll put in one of those indents. So you see the wall will come in a bit. Maybe it'll be just a circle piece that we push into here. Oh, and we want this to be cut and asymmetrical too. What else I want to figure out when we're doing all these, and we'll have to do it as we're throwing it, because we're going to make a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different proportions, but this base, I need to put it in proportion to the rest of the piece. See, right now it's kind of tucked in. Okay, if I brought that out a little bit, maybe. Okay. So it's got its own thing going on. Now, another thing that bothers me with balance on this is that this is all connected. And we could add some separation. So the wall of this planter is going to come in so that this asymmetrical piece sits on top. Coming up and out, not just straight up. So this is a good map for something that is not going to box in the work, but I've got an intentional direction to go into. I've made some standards for myself so that the craftsmanship can be at a level that, it's not bothersome to see, a piece that's not paid attention to. Or something that looks like it was just thrown together.
Andrew, this is already mesmerizing. I'm just wondering if do you always do a sketch like this before you get started?
Not always, but it really does help. Some items that I'll make, I'll spend a few months, the mugs are probably the best example, because I'll spend a few months on one, game plan like this with very few changes in between so that I can develop that idea and grow into it and refine it. but also, explore and push out and push the boundaries of it. But, at some point, I don't want to stay fixed on that same game plan, that same formula for too long, but so the work will become stagnant. So I want to branch out and do something else. For unique pieces, like a really, really nice vase, if I was making something that was supposed to be at a really high level, then I would make an individual game plan just for that. But for production pieces, to make things accessible to people so they don't have to spend, $5,000 for a vase, we can make something, a game plan and a formula to where I can produce it in a big quantity, but still have it be expressive and unique, not like the things that you buy at Walmart that are reproduced and they're all the same.
Cool.
So the goal is today not to do an instructional video on how to throw pottery, but more on the artistic process and how it applies to throwing. So all of those crazy asymmetrical things that I was talking about, they're still going to need to be built from a base that's nice and centered. Okay, we're not going to have good craftsmanship and a good solid piece if I don't start this way, because I won't be able to pull up the walls. And the walls will be all two different thicknesses. I originally thought to do these in two pieces so that I can get my hands up underneath and really pay attention to this corner as it comes out and show that off. But what I found was that the proportions and being able to work that together is much better when we're throwing it in one piece. So we've got the outside ring and the inside planter. Clean it up. So at this point, I don't have to care as much about things being centered, because we've already started with a good base and I have enough centered that I can work with. So I'll bring that up. Now we're going to cut the rim with a wire tool. I want this to be real wonky. Oh, that might be a bit ambitious, huh? Okay. So I'm going to pull that up a little bit so I can get my fingers around it. I like using tools that are on hand. I don't keep an extra piece of plastic or a chamois to smooth out the rims because our fingers work just great.
Everybody's saying hi. You got Sarah Lynch, Romy Sebald,
Hi.
both saying hi.
So I want to come up quite a bit, but I don't want to overpower the base. That's no longer smooth. Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with that. That's nice. You don't want to go terribly thin because this is not fine china, it's a planter. But I've got to go thin enough that we can do something with the walls. Okay, so I've made that ledge here. If I left more clay for myself on the bottom, I could have made it up a bit higher and a bit sharper. But that is what it is. And if it collapses, we'll have another try. Okay, so there's some of the asymmetry, but we've gotten really, really oval now from that working. And I feel like this section here needs some interest and it needs to be pushed out a bit. So now pushing that out made a beautiful little form inside of here as it comes out and kind of points out that way. And as you look around it, it's quite beautiful. And I think I want to match that on the other side. Okay. I wish I had another camera. I could show you guys down into the inside of this. It's also making some beautiful patterns. Now, when I work sculpturally, and I haven't done enough in the recent months on this, but I like to do that with texture. And so what I've done over here, we've got a plaster mold with some seashells. My kids help me with the plaster molds, so they get to use them too. And then I've also got a whole bunch of these pieces of seashells and seashell stuff. I didn't collect them. I picked them up at the Best Friend's gift shop, the thrift store. And we'll make a map on here of the different patterns and textures that I can make with them. So you see this came from here where something is eating out of the shell. Okay. And it makes a beautiful negative on the other side. So I might see if there's some places I can add that texture to on this. And hopefully it won't stick so much that you can't pull this out. Where can we get? We've got a huge plain area right here. We'll have this texture coming out right there. Maybe a bit. Okay. So that's not working terribly well with the water right now, but it has made a texture. And we're going to work with that. But right now it's just a slop on there. So I'm going to make one part clean and the other part not. Okay. Now at this point, it looks like I've worked this clay a little bit much. So we're going to leave that alone. We'll see about doing this outside. That up a bit more. Okay. Now, like I said in the description for this class, each step that we take with a piece in ceramics is making a canvas for the next piece. So, when this clay was made, there were decisions of what was put into it that would, allow or not allow what we could do with it. So I can't build giant, massive sculptures with this because it's too plastic. I can't make something transparent because it's not a transparent clay, but I can do other things. Pieces like this, it's perfectly plastic and strong enough to be modeling with it like this. And when I chose the amount of clay, that set up, how big or small I can make it and what I can do with it from there. And when I made this, made a whole canvas for when I trim and refine it. There's pieces in here that I'm not going to like. It's sharp here, and I'll sand that away before it's fired. Some of this gunk in here will get fixed up. And then when we glaze, again, that's a whole nother piece of artwork that we've built a canvas for. And that, when we glaze the piece, that's the canvas for the firing. The firing is an artwork in itself. And then when we've made the piece, we can use that piece in artwork and display, where it's part of something else or is made into something else. This is a planter, so it's a canvas for the plant. So we're going to go at it again. This piece is a bit bigger, so hopefully I'll be able to see a little bit more details. And I'll throw it faster so we've got more working time. Can maybe do a few more experiments. Oh. A little ambitious coming up there.
Andrew, did you study ceramics in school or anything? Where did you learn this?
I did. Well, I've been learning and growing longer out of school than what I was in at this point, but I did go under Mark Luthold at SUNY Potsdam for a few years. I studied under him, and that gave me a really good sculptural background, so that I'm not just stuck into following instructions from books to make the same things that other people have made in the craft scene and just repeating their artistic processes as step by step thing. But I can grow and expand, and there's not really any limits. And I think that was the best place to have a foundation, was with a program like that. I know not all college programs are like that, but most of the fine arts are. I'm really gonna try to get that in this time. Okay. So this one, you can see we're still following the same general idea, and everything's being done intentionally, but these two planners are vastly different. The other one, the rim was going mostly straight up, and this one's more fluid. Okay, we come up and then out and then up and then out again. So for this one, I think it's important that some of these sections get broken up, because this rim undulates quite a bit, and so does this one. But this is a straight line. and it barely bounces off my finger as it goes around. That bothers me because there's nothing interesting going on with it that adds to the piece. Sometimes straight lines do, but I don't feel like that's the case here. I think maybe if it came out quite a bit and was like a really prominent straight line that broke up the other crazy lines, then it would be, something interesting, but it's just kind of there. So we're gonna break it up to make it into something interesting. Really break it up. There's no need to be shy about that. Now I've got this line that was made that comes right up to this corner, which wasn't really intentional, but the important part of these processes is that you make a mark, and then you look at that mark and you see how it works in relation to the other pieces of what you're doing and see what you can do with it. So that comes up and around here. And I think if we just followed through to here and let that dip out over, that continues the line quite nicely. It points up there. Now, I can't continue the rest of it like that, make it super obvious. It might be strong, but that's not what I want to do. It's not what I want to go for. So to go in on the other side, not exactly on the other side, we'll do a piece a part that's lower right here. We'll really, oh no. I've got this stamp here that's got my mark on it. We want to put in here, but the way this is angled, it's kind of upside down. Maybe I can get it in. There we go. One of the things I tell my students about ceramics is that it's the study of water and how water moves through the clay and through other things. So when you start a new process, you're going to have to experiment a bunch of times to find out how to make what you want to work. And I think with detailed stamps like that, we're going to have to wait for this clay to stiffen up a considerable amount. I might be able to take some of the pots that I threw in the beginning of the class, at the end of the class, and put those stamps in them. In fact, that's probably what we're going to do. But you've got to be open to it. All the things that happen on the fly that weren't what you expected. Try that with water. Okay, that's nice. So this works. Okay. I'm going to add that up here too.
I know you've taught classes for the Arts Council, and I think you teach every once in a while at a Third Wheel Pottery, but do you have other students that you work with on a more regular basis?
Occasionally we do classes here in Hannawa. I haven't yet this year though, because we've been moving the studio around quite a bit. And I mean, recently with everything being shut down, and I haven't come across any online classes that I'd like to teach just yet. But I think I'll be making content and posting that up on social media and YouTube.
Cool. You have your own business Facebook page, right?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll be sure to share that on this video so y'all can go like his page and follow as we go along.
So let's see what we got on this. Now, when I look at this, I'm not seeing the breaking that I wanted on the walls. The asymmetry that we wanted down here. So I'm probably going to bring back at least one or two curves that go all the way across, from the bottom on one side to the top on the other side. And I'll put that in each piece unless I come up with a design that I really think that these vertical walls are going to be successful. It's just really not doing it with this piece. So we're going to start again. And keep on changing. You know, I can add more asymmetry by continuing to manipulate this off the wheel. So we need a small one.
Romy said you should do a follow-up with trimming, glazing, and firing.
Yeah, that would be nice. Actually, I could arrange that either here or on my personal page.
Oh, we'd love to have you back. This is so cool.
All right. So here with this one, I'm going to try and break one of the rules that I made before about the pot not overpowering the base. We're going to make this come right up over it if there's enough clay there to work with. So like I said, I'm not an even pot to pot. I don't want to keep so close to a formula or a plan that the work becomes static. And that's one of the things that I learned not at school, but selling at the farmers markets. My good days were the days that I had, the most diverse offering that I could bring to the table. Because, the people you meet there are so widely different. They've all got different tastes, different textures and forms and colors and surface qualities that speak to different people different ways. And, for something that, like what I'm selling, and for the prices that I do, if it doesn't really speak to someone, it's not going to get sold. So, while we don't want to base our artistic expression on, what other people's ideas are, but there is a lot to be learned from that, is that the diversity and not becoming stagnant in your own work has a financial value to it. That was really important for me, to be able to continue my work. And it was really nice to see that something that was not only beneficial for my work was also beneficial for my finances, because they don't always go hand in hand.
Do you also sell your work online at all?
Yeah, we started up on Shopify at the end of last year. But there was a bunch of logistical issues with that. And it's being switched over right now to a different platform run by Square. So if anyone's looking for work, they're more than welcome to go to my website right now. But the only thing available right now is gift cards. Everything else is in my studio in the garage. And customers are more than welcome to, ask what's available, look through the social media, and I can ship anywhere in the United States. And feel free to set up a time to call on, FaceTime or a Zoom meeting, and I can show you through the selection of what's there. And I think video is a much better platform for selling artwork than pictures are, because, when you're selling it online, the customer's stuck with that one view, or whatever pictures that you took, that's what they've got. In person's always best, especially for intimately functional work like cups and bowls, because you hold this for a long period of time, and you do, basic functions that we get happiness from is our food and our drinks. And so you don't know if you like it until you pick it up. So that's what's really thrown me for a loop this year, because selling in person is really vital to not only my business and being able to keep up sales, but the feedback for my work is, it's just not happening right now. I've got Amanda and the kids, but there's only so many times that I can go into the other room and stop them and say, what do you think about this? And, also it's just a handful of people's ideas too.
I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that we can maybe get some more community feedback going on in our new members only Facebook page and stuff like that. You could share videos of showing us your work or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. And having that is definitely going to be beneficial for the whole time that I'm out here able to produce work, but not, show it to people in person. Is kind of an awkward stage. Now, this one I'm liking quite a bit from my angle. I don't know what you guys are seeing. So I'm going to cut this and take a look at what you guys can see. It's ovaled out quite evenly, like a little bit of a wonky egg on top. But it's very nice. And this profile is quite nice too, of the rim. And we have this gentle asymmetry that's nicely balanced. Okay. And you see it's following the same formula, completely different pot, completely different approach to balancing it out. But still, following the same steps and the same basic idea. Turned out very nice. Now, to make these function afterwards, for this to be the drain reservoir, when it's leather hard, I'll make a hole that goes from the inside vessel to the outside vessel.
So very cool. Those all look really great. How many of these trials do you think you would do to get to where you want to be?
Where I want to be with a piece, there's no real line in between when I'm doing the trials and the production. So once I'm in production, it's still just the same thing I was doing during the trials. And if it's something functional like mugs and I want them to be all around the same price and used for the same thing, then I'll weigh the clay out. But for something like planters, I'm just taking random sizes of clay and going at it, and I'll keep evolving every single time that I make a piece. So, there might be some pieces that I throw today when we just started this that'll wind up as finished pieces. That, every single piece is a trial for the next one. There was, and I should probably find the actual story behind it, but there was a story about a Chinese emperor who commissioned a painting, and he wanted a painting of a fish, and so he paid the artist to paint him a fish, and he went off to his studio, and a couple months went by, and a couple months went by, and a couple years went by, and one day the emperor remembered that he commissioned this painting for the fish and never got it. So he gets all mad and he gets all his guards and they march on down to this guy's studio and demand the painting. And he says, okay. And he pulls out a blank canvas and he paints a fish. And it's a gorgeous fish, most beautiful fish the emperor had ever seen painted. And he says, why did it take so many years? You could have just done this and handed it to me the same day. This is ridiculous. You're pulling one over on me. And so he goes and he opens up a back room and shows it to the emperor, and it's filled with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of paintings of a fish, because he was practicing and evolving an artistic voice for that painting. And each one was, better or worse, it was an evolution of the one before it. So that's something, when I heard that in, I don't know if it was high school or college, or if it was even somebody was talking about something else, but making an art-related metaphor, but that stuck with me, and that's kind of how I like to work. The wall is really wet. That looks better. I love being able to turn the wheel around like that. That's not like a common thing that I've seen a lot of people be able to do. And that's one of the bonuses that I got to learn teaching, because I throw the opposite way that most people do. So usually when I teach, I throw the way that most people do, which is opposite from what I do. And so I've been able to be somewhat efficient throwing the opposite way, which really helps when you're trying to add something to a piece. It can be really difficult when all the lines and everything is moving the same exact way. So this, I think, is really balanced as it is. It's very gloppy. And like I said, it's not something that's going to move on to the next phase. I get to edit this before it moves on to glazing. So all these chunks right now, if I were to go through and edit those, I'd lose a lot of the main form. Right here, see this lip that comes down, it's got a very nice shape to it, but these glops are not so nice. If I try to smooth that out, I'd completely lose it. But I can wait until it stiffens up a little bit. I can scrape those off and sand it nice and smooth before it goes in the bisque fighter.
That is really beautiful. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. I didn't see what we were doing on time.
Oh, we're like an hour in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I guess we're good. Was there any questions that anybody had?
No, I gave you some comments. Sorry, people are really loving the virtual clay.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Absolutely. Well, I really do think we should find another time to do some firing or glazing, all the other processes that are part of it. Really fun.
Yeah, just send me a message. We'll set something up probably in the next week or so, or I can keep them under plastic for however long we need. Oh,
awesome. Well, great. Well, this has been Art for Art's Sake with Andrew Norrell. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful talents with us and showing this process. It's been really interesting to see it. And I hope y'all will join us tomorrow for some more art for art's sake.